I'm joined again by Pete from Woven with another delicious Woven blended whiskey. Will you introduce what do we have on the barrel this time?
We release all of our whiskies in collections.
Okay.
And we've just released our third collection, and this is experience number 11, and it's called Peachy. And so it's, beautiful.
Brilliant. And I think for me, the word experience instead of batch or number or whatever, it's just very evocative. And it's very, I don't know, what's the sort of logic behind that?
It started out, the term experience for us started off because when you drink a whiskey, it's very different from sip to sip, from time to time. So an experience of sipping a whiskey in a warehouse surrounded by barrels is very different from sipping a whiskey in your front room with the fire on and the dog at your feet. And we loved the idea that a whiskey is an experience in itself, but it can change and travel with you to become different experiences. And so we became really obsessed with the idea of a whiskey being an experience and trying to capture that within it. So all of our limited editions we call experiences. And I suppose at the essence, at the core, what they are is a blended whiskey that has been created with a certain moment, a time, a memory, or a thought in place to be able to carry the blend towards where it's ended up.
Cool, brilliant. So this one, as you say, is called Peachy. Is this, in terms of the kind of flavors that come through, what was the inspiration behind the peachiness?
I suppose that we've got what the whiskey is at a liquid level, and then what it is at the point of conception. Is that the right word? That sounds far too.
Sounded convincing. Let's roll.
Okay. So at a liquid level, Peachy is really a study in like youth.
Okay.
So we've got some from a grain point of view. So all of our whiskies are a blend of malt whiskey and grain whiskey. We are blenders. We're not blended malts. Well, we might do that later on, but we haven't yet. And so for the grain component of Peachy, we've got 3 distilleries, one of them being actually a malted barley that's gone through a column still. Okay. So very strange, but it has to be classified as a grain. Sure. And then we've got a sort of an older West Coast grain, and then a very, very old sort of Central Belt grain. Okay. So we've got our grain components there, and they bring sort of vanilla, citrus, and toffee to the party. But then we're using malt distilleries. One's from a new distillery over in Glasgow, and then we've got an older sherried from Speyside as well. At a sort of an experience level, Peachy's all about sort of those old Hollywood movies. Do you know sort of Hollywood Boulevard? When they turned the contrast up to 11, and it's got sort of the Elvis playing and the Cadillacs going, and it's this sort of like the sunsets over the Hollywood hills, that sort of thing. We really liked that as a sort of a thought to sort of try and make a whiskey too. So within Peachy, it's all about trying to capture peaches, lychee, melon. Those sort of like those fleshy, soft summer fruits that are really delicate and beautiful, but quite difficult to harness in a whiskey.
Cool, wonderful. We'll give this a little look. In terms of color, obviously color is not a huge, it's not something you really consider when you put together a blend, is it? It's all about flavor. It's all about experience. Did you have to be careful with sort of cask use in terms of the whiskies that you used for this? You didn't want anything that was too dominant.
Exactly that. We didn't want anything that was going to overpower those delicate flavors. This is a real study in delicacy, I suppose, or trying to maintain fruit whilst adding complexity, if that makes sense. As that was the balance in trying to make this whiskey was trying to keep delicacy but adding complexity.
Yeah.
And so you're right, in terms of the cask use and the marrying, we married this whiskey in a fourth fill butt.
Okay.
So, you know, it did
Hardly any interaction.
hardly any interaction. Just there for about 45 days, just to bring the flavors together, and that's it.
You know, if you're looking for those sort of delicate, lively, sweet, juicy, fruity flavors, so much of that comes from the distillate. That's not really the flavor profile you get from, you know, if you want to create a whiskey that tasted like a mahogany table, you know, this isn't it. You'd need to have a completely different recipe for that.
Yeah.
So it's, again, it's all about finding that flavor profile and finding the components that will contribute to that.
You hit the nail on the head there. This is all about the distillate rather than the wood.
Yep.
And not to say that there isn't age in there. There is some. We had to add it's an old Cameron Bridge.
Okay.
Just to be able to not have it as a spiky whiskey.
Okay.
We wanted it to be round, mellow,
Sure.
almost like eating a fleshy, juicy peach. You don't want a sort of a spiky sharpness to it. You want it to be sweet and subtle. So
a bit of age to round off the edges.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okey-doke. Yeah, on the nose you do get it is all the sort of soft fleshy fruits that come in through, aren't you?
You talk about the wood not coming through, and you don't want to get wood like tannin. You don't want to get any what I would call sort of the dark wood sort of flavors coming through.
Sure.
But you do want some of the coconut and vanilla to come through from American oak, and that is certainly in here, and that just harmonizes really nicely with those fruity flavors.
Yeah.
It's not like we're not trying to overpower anything, but we are trying to complement.
Absolutely.
You know, milk chocolate, coconut, vanilla from wood is great.
Yep.
Baking
in
spice,
moderation.
Baking spice, leather, sultanas. That's not really what we were vibing on here.
Yeah, no, it's all about balance, isn't it? And bringing these complementary flavors together. So we'll give this a little sip. Yeah, it's such a such a clean whiskey, a very clean finish, and I think in terms of, you know, the aftertaste, the finish, however you describe it, I'd say for blends it's just about it being, you know, balanced and not, you know, I'd say this had a medium finish. It's not short, it's not abrupt, it's not spirity. It's a gentle lingering to it.
It is still there though. I mean, I can still get it still kind of rumbling on a little bit in the background, but it's certainly this is what you said there, a clean whiskey. And I love the idea of sort of a minimalist approach to blending. I think that it was Winston Churchill that said, here we go. It was Winston Churchill that said, I'd love to have written you a shorter letter, but I didn't have time. You know, it's very easy to add things to fix, but it's very hard to be able to subtract to make it cleaner, better, more beautiful. And that's something that we're really sort of trying to get towards with Woven is for you as a drinker to be able to sort of, okay, maybe you don't know what's in the whiskey, and we don't want anybody to. This isn't an experience in itself. It's not like we're trying to give everybody just a breakdown. But you want to be able to have a journey within a whiskey, and that comes from the different malts and the different grain whiskies. And I think that Peachy is a great example of that. You know, you're getting sort of the West Coast Glasgow fruitiness coming through, and you're getting sort of the elderly Cameron Bridge and you know, the Loch Lomond coffee malt. Very, very nice. Almost like a light rum delicacy to it, very estery, as you say. And then, the sort of Speyside Glentockers, which is just so beautiful. One of these distilleries that you just don't necessarily hear about too much within the single malt system, you know, world. But as blenders, Glentockers is stunning to be able to play with.
It just doesn't. It doesn't shout above the crowd. It just knows what it can do, and it does it very, very well. Again, it's a beautifully brought together experience. And it's, I was going to say the word simple. That might, again, that's one of the things that might have negative connotations, but for me, it highlights that you don't need 30 years of maturation. You don't need hyperactive casks. You don't need, super aggressive peat. You just need, good quality components with a little bit of time brought together in the right way, the right proportions, and it's divine.
Exactly. And I think that's exactly it. Simplicity doesn't need to mean
boring,
right?
Yep.
Or homogeneous or one-dimensional. It can mean, if you take a piece of sea bass and you treat it perfectly with 2 other ingredients, and you can have the most beautiful meal that you'll remember for the rest of your life. That's simple.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean easy. It doesn't mean boring.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this is it's a whiskey you can just go back to again and again. It's enough. There's so much there that if you wanted to sit and really focus on it and analyze it, you can pick up all these, fruity flavors. So yeah, overall, again, it's a beautifully brought together blend. Complexity to it, but not challenging, not boring. It's just a pleasure to enjoy. So another success.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Cheers.